and welcome to the August 2nd, 2017 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Our agenda starts tonight with voting on the minutes of July 19. Betsy.
I read them, and they look good, as usual. I don't have any comment. So I move.
So the movement?
Yes,
Second.
I make a motion that we,
Okay, I have a couple things I would like to put in for clarification, but they're minor things. We'll pass them down. Thank you. All those in favor say, of adopting the minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous? So moved. Okay, now, we move on to, forgot to mention that if you have electronic devices with you, please silence them. And also, if you wish to speak, that's very welcome, but you must come up to the podium and speak into the microphone and identify yourself. All right, requests for determination of applicability. These are the lesser class of permits that we issue, and just to avoid some confusion or anxiety, negative determination, when you hear that phrase, that's a good thing. That means that you don't need to go to the next level of review. You can go ahead with your project as it's been reviewed. All right, first, Stephen Bayless, 64 Muskeget Road, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to obtain a simplified Chapter 91 license for an existing concrete bulkhead and an existing float. The float is owned by the applicant but shared with the abutting property at Lot 77 Muskeget Road and will be positioned along the common property line.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we are actually recommending a -2 under the state and bylaw for the seawall and a +3 for the float. And the only reason I'd like to see that under a notice is because that's a really tight basin in there. There are a lot of boats and a lot of things going on, and we want to do a little bit more research on what other floats are properly licensed, and I'd like the harbor master to review it too as far as navigation issues getting in and out of there. And I just want to make sure all the abutters are notified properly, because I think it's going to affect the navigation in that little basin. So the staff is just uncomfortable because they want to take the float and make it perpendicular to the seawall, add 2 boats on either side, and we've gotten some concerns already from abutters, so we'd just like to see it under a notice.
Okay.
Okay.
good. I make a motion that we accept staff's recommendation.
Second.
All right, does anybody have any comment or questions on this application? Anybody from the public? All right. All those in favor of adopting the staff's recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Next, Carmela Hutner, Lot 42, Hutner Road, map 50-01-002-042, and 27 Hutner Road, Woods Hole, Massachusetts, for permission to continue maintenance for the control of invasive plant species, maintain vista view and path clearance as previously approved.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we're recommending a -2 in the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any comment from the board? Anything from the public? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Karen Nelson, 82 Edgewater Drive East, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to pump, fill, and abandon the existing cesspool, remove trees, and install a new Title V sewage disposal system.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we are recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments, questions from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Okay, the next is a continued request for determination of applicability. David and John Alejandro, 12 Clarabelle Road, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to pump and remove the existing cesspool, install a new Title V sewage disposal system, and to loam and seed disturbed areas.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we are recommending a -2 under the bylaw, and -3 under the state with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Excuse me, no comment from anyone, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Next, we have a request for equitable tolling. Elizabeth and Michael Namitz, 46 School Street, Woods Hole, Massachusetts, DEP number 25-3885, request an extension until January 30th, 2019.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant is requesting an extension until 2019. Their order of conditions, they had an amended order issued in October 30th of 2014, which had expired in 2017. At that time, I believe the property, and Attorney Ahmed can correct me if I get my facts wrong a little bit, was under, they had a permit from, or they were, somebody was appealing, I think it was in a butter group appealing the permit from the Historic Districts Commission, or the Historic Commission. So it was under litigation at that time, and now that that has been settled, they would like to move forward with the project, except our order of conditions has expired. You did get a document from Attorney Harris to kind of guide you through this after Attorney Ahmed's presentation.
All right, thank you, Jen. Good evening, Bob.
Good morning, good evening, Madam Chairman, and members of the board. First, I'd like to thank the board for taking this a little early because I have a further obligation later tonight. So some 4 years ago, a bit more now, the Namitzes obtained from the Conservation Commission an order of conditions allowing them to build a relatively small garage off School Street near Eel Pond that needed your approval. At the very same time, they were applying to the Historic Districts Commission for a certificate of appropriateness. The Historic Districts Commission denied their application about the same time as the Conservation Commission granted the order of conditions. The Namitzes appealed to Superior Court and won the case. The Superior Court remanded the case to the Historic Districts Commission for further hearings. The Namitzes reduced the size of the proposed garage. They came and got an amended order from the Conservation Commission reducing the scope of the project somewhat. And they also were successful in getting a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Districts Commission. A neighbor appealed the grant of their permit, and we were back in Superior Court for more than 2 years. And in December of 2016, the Superior Court upheld the issuance of the certificate of appropriateness. So for almost all of the last 4 years since the order of conditions was issued, the Namitzes have been in litigation. There's a body of case law, quite a number of cases, in the Massachusetts courts, going from the Superior Court and the Land Court through the Appeals Court and the Supreme Judicial Court, that concern the issue of so-called tolling, T-O-L-L-I-N-G. When a permit is tolled, that is, when its term it stops because it's unfair if somebody cannot take advantage of a permit, cannot use it because of pending litigation on the same matter. And this is one of those cases where, except for a very brief period of time, several months up until December of last year, this matter has been in litigation, and the Namitzes were not able to exercise rights under the permit. Under the case law, the tolling is actually automatic. One doesn't need to request an extension. It's automatic for the period of the litigation, provided you win the litigation, which is what happened in both lawsuits in this case. And the courts have also held, and I told you so in a correspondence I left with your office today, and I think you have a copy of it, that the courts have said that you shouldn't have to proceed with other permitting when you don't know what the results will be of pending litigation. Now, the decision, and it really, as I've said, I think it's automatic, the tolling, and I don't know, because I didn't receive a copy of, and I guess it's a privileged client information from your town council. I don't know what the Pat Harris has actually advised you. But I believe that the case law means that 3 years of the permit are still running, and actually based on the number of days when the matter was in litigation, as indicated in your agenda, the permit is good for, good until, did you say January 30 of 2019? I might have the date off. And this is really a request for you to confirm that. And if you do, the Namenses are planning to proceed with the project this fall, now that they have all their other permits except for a building permit. One thing that's of some note, even though, as I say, it's an automatic extension, I believe, an automatic tolling. In this case, if we did apply for a new order of conditions, your regulations and the floodplain and so on, they haven't changed from, so presumably there would be the same result with respect to the case. But that would be unfair. It would expose the Namenses to the possibility of neighbors appealing a new decision, and just say that can happen continuously, and that's one reason for the tolling rule. Thank you. If you have questions, of course, I'll try to answer them.
Madam Chairman, Bob Ament does not have a copy of Attorney Harris's memo to you because it is under attorney-client privilege. If you vote to allow him to read it, I can give him my copy so he can review it while you're discussing it, because I don't believe that Attorney Harris feels that it's automatic, Bob. So I just want you to be aware of that. So,
Betsy?
Okay, I have a couple of things to say. One is, as far as I'm concerned, Bob can have Pat's memo.
can you vote on that, please?
Make a
Okay,
motion.
so I'll make a motion to
Release your memo.
allow Attorney Ament to read Attorney Harris's memo to us.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
So now we'll just get continued.
Yeah, no.
Not yet,
So,
unless he wants time to read it.
Well, I
Yes, you still
actually,
have the floor, Betsy.
okay,
I'm pretty confident in everything I've told you, and in being able to answer your questions. I hope I'm not overconfident. I'm not going to read the memo at this time. I'm hoping that everything that you ask I can answer, and that you'll agree that it's only fair in this case to toll, agree that the permit has been tolled so that we can go forward with the project.
Okay, Betsy?
okay, the second thing I'd like to say is I'd like to thank Attorney Harris for that. It was a very thorough discussion, as you'll see, as was yours of this. And I feel that you've answered her questions. She suggested to us at the last paragraph to make findings on certain things, and you've addressed those. Especially, one of the critical ones is that the regulations haven't changed and the resource areas haven't changed since the original permit was done. So, and the third thing I want to say is I never heard the word toll, but this is the second time I've heard it. 2 cases this week. So all the things about legal things that I never wanted to know about. But I'm going to make a motion that we
You can do.
extend this to January 30th, 2019.
I'll second it.
I want to just make a comment to the board and to Attorney Ament and to all of the attorneys and representatives sitting in the audience. Next time, please ask for an extension, whether you feel that you're in the right or not. You may not be able to answer some of the board's questions. So if you find yourself in litigation over a zoning board of appeal permit or a historic district permit, please give this board the courtesy of asking for an extension in the appropriate time period, because you may get through this board, but I'm really concerned, Bob, that we are going to send it to DEP, and DEP is going to have another.
Well, I appreciate your
Opinion.
suggestion, and it's something we would hope to do. This is the first time in my 44 years of practice before Falmouth boards that the issue has come up, and I hope in 44 years
So do I.
it'll come along. And
Yeah, I'm just hoping that DEP agrees with this board's assessment, because I was thinking about that today, that their council may not agree. So you may get it under the bylaw, but you may get stopped at the state level. I don't know how that's going to play out when we send the extension in, so just be aware of that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would like to echo what Jen said. I think it's just a good idea.
Good practice.
It's good practice, and also my reading of our regulations is that the applicant should ask in a timely manner, and if these conditions are all satisfied, as they are in this case, then we should say, sure, yes.
Thank you.
That's how I think procedurally those regulations set things forward. I'm curious, did the time just go by and nobody thought to ask, or was it a decision based on all the, the understanding that you've explained to us?
I think
That why
both.
we didn't hear from you earlier?
I think both.
Uh-huh.
I think we were aware of the tolling issue, and it didn't occur to us that there was a problem.
Okay, all right.
In retrospect, one of the cases is interesting. It stands for the proposition that the tolling is automatic, but also says that it may be a good idea to apply so that there's not uncertainty by either the town or the property owner.
Mm-hmm.
So
Or the
that seems,
state
that's really
owns
what's
that.
being suggested. It seems like good advice.
Okay. Yes, and the circumstances being what they are and having been the same as they are now back then, we wouldn't really have had any choice anyway, so, but we would have had notice. Kevin?
Yeah, just a clarification. Are we voting on something that is recognizing the point that these things would automatically be told? Or are we granting an extension of the
We're granting
permit?
the extension
Okay.
because,
Under
Okay,
the
under the
that's,
Under the
circumstances.
circumstances
Okay.
of this particular case.
okay.
I think we're going to start.
So, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, now we continue to request for hearings under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. So, first, notice of intent, Lorraine Luckner, 15 Pennsylvania Avenue, Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to raise RAZE, the existing dwelling, and construct a new single-family house, porches with stairs, install utilities, dry wells, a rinse station, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Good evening.
Madam Chairman, can I make one comment before Matt starts?
Yes,
Is
that's
that-
fine, yes.
Oh, I'm
please
sorry.
do.
I was looking down. There was a revised plan that was submitted, was it yesterday? The only thing that it changed was the elevation of the proposed dwelling.
First
Courtney,
floor.
yeah, Courtney sent you, kind of scanned that little part, sent that to you so you're aware. So I just want to make sure that you're all comfortable with that.
Up to the required
Yeah,
amount. for
yeah.
this.
Okay,
I won't complain about it tonight.
okay.
Thank you,
Good.
Madam Chairman. For the record, Matt Costa, Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant. Lorraine Leshner is here with me tonight in the audience. As you stated in your public announcement, we're here tonight before you under a notice of intent application to raise and rebuild existing dwelling, 15 Pennsylvania Ave. Your resource areas for this project are land subject to coastal storm flowage only. There are no other resource areas within 100 feet of the property. If you look at the plan, you'll see we delineated the flood zone areas. This property is located in two different flood zones. One is a velocity zone, VE elevation 15, and the other is an A zone. We also shown on the plan the 25-foot buffer as per your regulations from the velocity zone. This is a very straightforward project. The lot is completely legally previously developed. We're rebuilding the existing structure and primarily this same footprint. The pools to remain. There is some difference in areas between existing and proposed. And if you look over on the right side of your plan under project statistics, we break out the square footage calculations for you. The important takeaway here is that we're under the allowed 200 square foot increase in area within the velocity zone. This project meets all the applicable performance standards as we have articulated in our narrative, and we respectfully request that you issue an order of conditions. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Pat. Jen, did you have something you wanted to say?
Matt, what's going on underneath the house in the velocity zone area? Is it a solid wall?
Of the proposed structure?
Mm-hmm.
None of the proposed structures in the FEMA velocity zone area.
But that's...
The portion that is, will be, a wall.
Will what? Have solid walls in the velocity zone as defined in Falmouth? Is it going to have solid walls?
Yes, I believe so.
This is one of those
The
things-
structure is elevated above as it's called for.
No, I understand
The
that.
additional 2 feet.
I understand that.
And none of the state building code for construction in velocity zone applies.
Okay, guys, we've gone through this a number of times. The Falmouth velocity zone is the Falmouth velocity zone. That means you have to comply with all of the Falmouth velocity zone requirements, which also means you have to have that portion of the house on open pilings. So the board's going to have to take that into consideration. We've gone through this multiple times in the 12 years that I've been here about, oh, well, it's not in the FEMA velocity zone. This board doesn't recognize that. It recognizes that it is in a velocity zone as determined by their regulations. So, again, you know, they may require breakaway panels in that area. I don't like breakaway panels. We all know that. We've known that for at least 10 years, if not 11. So they'll just have to make some findings on that map. But thank you for clarifying that for me. Other than that, it's just straight in a thing. And this is one of the things where it makes it difficult in this type of situation for the board, is what you're going to do in this type of situation. Okay, that's it. Courtney?
No questions.
Kevin?
I guess are we ruling on something that has to do more with the building code?
No, you actually have a set of standards in your regulations on how the board would like to see structures built in a velocity zone. You have a 25-foot offset from
Right.
the FEMA velocity zone, which does, in cases like this, push that into houses that otherwise would be outside of that area.
Yeah.
This board can make a determination that, you know, it's strictly in the flood zone, it's, you know, a couple streets away from the water, it's, you know, a majority of the structure is out, you know, the structure is outside the FEMA designated velocity zone, but we do have to address it. We can't just ignore the fact that a portion of it is in the Falmouth B zone, we
Yep.
do have to address it and make findings.
We have to address it, but we don't necessarily have to, like, forbid it.
No,
Okay.
that's
No,
up
we
to the
have to
board.
acknowledge it.
Yeah,
No,
but you
okay.
do need to make findings.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
Moved
don't
it
worry about
again.
it, don't apologize.
Okay.
You do need to make findings.
Yes.
Okay.
This is what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
All right, Betsy?
Yeah. What provisions are you making for floodwaters?
First, the structure's elevated 3 feet above, 3 feet above the FEMA requirement. So we're adding an additional height to it, and there's going to be flood vents
Flood vents.
in the walls. And the covered porch area is going to be supported on pilings. So it's a very sound structure for the area, and it does have the appropriate flood mitigation measures as per the building code.
So the flood vents will allow the waters to pass all the way through and underneath.
Absolutely. So the ground underneath the structure will be at grade, so the water will be able to flow in and out.
Okay, thank you.
I have one quick clarification. Matt, on your plan, the little hash marks around the proposed dwelling, that's a solid wall, right? So that the covered porch and that existing porch will be on a piling?
So it's a solid black line is the proposed, the little hash.
Oh, yeah,
Marks are
okay, got it,
existing.
sorry.
So technically, we're actually moving the structure further away from the velocity zone. If you notice, the primary dwelling right now is located right at the edge of it.
Yeah, I get
And
that.
we're actually moving those
So-
portions further away.
So the solid black line, like, the covered porch is gonna be on like pilings,
yeah.
and then, right above where it says proposed, that's where your wall's gonna be.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it, Betsy?
Yeah, that's it.
Jamie?
Yeah, I think you just answered this. What portion is on the pilings, the porches
The covered porch,
only?
yes.
And in your narrative, you have about the AC equipment and the generator. Where are those going?
A generator? I'm not recalling a generator. Was that in this narrative? I don't think it was. We can cite some AC units for you, but the AC units are gonna have to be above the flood zone, so they're actually gonna be either on platforms on the side of the building, or they're gonna be up.
One will be elevated and one will be out of the...
Yeah, so they gotta be, so it's gonna be up, well up off the ground, because we're gonna be like 6 feet off the ground with the first floor, so they're gonna be up there. There's not like, we're not gonna have what you typically see in the plans, is like AC pads on the ground someplace.
Okay. Can you clarify, you have 2 places where you have the approximate existing septic location?
Yeah, so one's a tank location and one's the pits. We just didn't delineate which exactly was which. We want from as-built information.
Are you expecting to reuse them?
Yes. We're not gonna be anywhere near the septic.
This one's not on the sewer?
Yeah, I thought the same exact thing, it's not.
Because the only approximate existing septic list per the tie card.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
the as-built. Yeah, surprisingly, it's not town sewer.
Okay.
Holly drew those lines.
Good.
You're good. Okay, Steve?
Just on the foundation again. It's just a space underneath the ground floor. It's not of use. And it's just 2 feet
Right, yes.
approximately.
Yeah, so building codes wouldn't allow habitable space below the flood
Yeah,
zone.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
All right, no further questions.
Okay, Peter?
I'm good.
Very good. Okay, Betsy?
So it's like a crawl space underneath.
Yeah, it's with flood fence.
Yeah. So, one other question, Matt. The existing garage, is that going to remain?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because you don't have it in dark. I
We
mean,
we weren't touching it.
right, but just confirming,
Yeah, that's
Thanks.
existing to remain.
existing and staying.
Yes.
All right. I gather that's it for questions from the board.
You agree?
No, I don't have any, and I haven't been
Want to make
asked.
a motion?
Certainly.
I'll make a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
All right. Is there anyone in the, any comment from the public? Yes, ma'am. Please come to the podium.
Hello, I'm Regina Walsh Wagner, and I live at 11 Pennsylvania Avenue. And so I'm fond of my neighbor Lorraine, but I just want to understand exactly what's happening because it's quite a change. And I was hoping to have some architect show me exactly what's happening and so forth. That house, when we were growing up, that was an 8-bedroom house, and we moved to the one at 11 Pennsylvania Avenue when the hurricane of '44 rushed through and tossed things into Mara Vista Bay there and so forth. So it's been quite a while, and our house didn't flood or didn't get moved or anything. But I would love to understand it before I say yippee. I like my neighbors, but I'd like to understand. And there's every time someone came into the yard, the fence would move or the things would happen. And if I drove out, they would take advantage, not the people who own the house, but the workmen, and they would take advantage of putting the fence on the wrong side of the tree. Ergo, the roots from that tree, which was my father's tree originally, are coming into my cellar and answered with it and so forth. So all that sort of thing I would like addressed. And I know everything changes. I just gave permission to my new neighbor to take down 3 large oak trees on my property so that she had a view of the ocean. And that was fine, because she was a lovely person and I did it. But everything changes, and so do you think I'd have any recourse to...
This is probably not the right board for you to be asking about these kinds of concerns. Perhaps the building department would be in a better position
All right.
to ask you what you're interested in. Matt, do you have any information?
Actually, Longfellow Design Build. built the project.
Sorry, you should get closer to the mic.
I was trying to, not hugger at the same time. Longfellow Design Build is building the project, so we'll hook them up with the neighbor, I'm sorry, I forgot the name already, to share the plans.
Okay,
All right,
good. All right,
okay.
thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck. Anything else from the public? All right. All those in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now, continued requests for a hearing under a notice of intent. Brian Najarian, Lot 76, Sipawicet Road, map 36-11-002-076, Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to construct a single-family 5-bedroom house with attached garage, patio, in-ground swimming pool and spa, pool, patio, and fence, install a Title V sewage disposal system, utilities, dry wells, driveway, restore previous alterations to the buffer, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Madam Chairman, can everybody please stop talking?
Yes, please. Good
Or
evening.
we're not going to start talking about that.
Yeah, please, can we have some quiet back there? Thank you. Good evening, Brian.
Madam Chairman, just for the record, the
Yes.
quorum is Steve, Jamie, Betsy, yourself.
Okay.
Mark and Maury are not here. That was close.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Through the chair, for the record, my name is Brian Wall. I'm an attorney from Sandwich, and with me tonight, representing Brian Najarian, the applicant, is Michael Verselli, professional engineer from Falmouth Engineering, and Jamie Crawford from Genix Studios. And as I mentioned, Mr. Najarian is in the back row. Mr. Najarian has this particular property, Lot 76, Sipawissett Road, under a purchase and sale agreement, subject to obtaining permits from this board to build a proposed structure. He is aware that the lot has an unaddressed enforcement order for a violation that was committed by the current owner of the property, the Stroud family. When we were here last on June 28th, we proposed the project in two forms. One was to address the restoration issue, to take care of the violation, and then simultaneously we proposed the construction of the house and its appurtenances. The commission had a couple of concerns. The way that I perceived them was the first concern had to do with the level of information that we provided on behalf of the applicant with regard to the scope of the violations. Mr. Gurney's not here tonight, but his concern was how could the board determine whether the proposed restoration was adequate without knowing more precisely what the violation itself was. And so we asked for a continuance on that matter, and Mr. Verselli and Ms. Crawford worked collaboratively to supplement that information. I'm going to let them address those things, but there is a revised plan with more information about the unapproved cutting and stumps, and Ms. Crawford is going to further address the board regarding the restoration of that. And then secondly, there was an issue or a concern with what I call the timing of the planting. I think it was the chair had said they wanted the planting to be done first and the construction second. And so a couple of things. Again, Jen Crawford's going to address that, but I did submit a letter to the board as what I call a fail-safe, that the applicant is willing to post financial security. But before you leap to that conclusion, please listen to Ms. Crawford, because she believes firmly that her proposed planting plan can be implemented best over the life of the permit, and it will be best for the environment and for the interests under the Act. And secondly, I said this the last time, that there is the certificate of compliance process so that you'll be assured that the planting plan is done. But if the board is not comfortable with a condition approving the proposed restoration plan as proposed, then we offer this financial security, because Mr. Najarian does not want to put off construction for a year. It would be uneconomic. He's going to sell his current house to move into this house, and he can't or doesn't want to carry both properties for a whole year. And we think that we've adequately addressed the commission's concerns. Having said that, we're available for questions, but I'm going to turn it over to Jen.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I submitted a letter to you that described in much more detail my site observations from last fall through the beginning of this early summer on the property. So I will just briefly summarize those. I was asked to, or we as a team were asked to identify the trees and other vegetation that were removed from the property unpermitted. We were able to locate 13 tree stumps, presumably oak species, based on what's currently growing there in the area. There might have been a cherry or two in there, but either way, deciduous. The area was also covered in wood chips at one time, presumably from chipping the vegetation that was removed. Those wood chips later on were removed and the area was seeded with grasses. So the area right now, as it currently stands, are stable. There's not open eroding soils or anything like that. It's vegetated. There are some There's little invasive species returning. I think the understory that was there, it's fair to say, was a mix of native and invasive species, again, based on what's growing in proximity. There are very little invasive species that are returning. There are some native shrubs that are resprouting back from the roots that were left. Mike Porcelli submitted an existing condition plan that shows the items that were listed in the enforcement order. So hopefully we have met the requirement that you wanted within that enforcement order. We also submitted to you a revised restoration plan that includes provisions to plant 13 new trees. In summary, essentially the plans that were before you, they result in a complete restoration of the resource area. They result in a complete restoration of the entire A zone as well as a portion of the B zone. We've proposed a very diverse species list that supports all different types of wildlife, from large mammals to migratory birds to pollinators. The plant palette proposed also supports soil stability. It's completely appropriate for the harsh conditions that this site has, and we hope that it meets and exceeds the expectations that you would have for a property such as this. In regard to the timing of the plantings, what is proposed within the land management plan is for the initial work for removing and treating the invasives to occur this fall or winter. The areas to be seeded and blanketed so that they are all stable, and for us to be allowed to have one season next summer to come through and ensure that we can do maintenance treatments on any invasive seed bank, weed seed bank, or anything that might be resprouting, and then doing the restoration plantings themselves in the fall of 2018. The reason that we propose this is because it allows us to have that one entire season to really ensure that we have exhausted all of the invasive seed bank, or at least the ones that are mostly viable for only a year, as well as to address any areas that may not have germinated as well. So we are able to reseed them and make sure that the area is completely, pretty much buttoned up before we go in and plant new things that we then have to come in and work around. We've just found that this is a very good protocol and results in high quality projects, which is why we propose it. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Raul, could I ask you a favor to ask them to relocate, please?
I think those
Thank
are the
you.
guys in
Thank you.
booths.
Do we want to ask some questions now, or let Mike speak, or? Were you planning to speak, Mike? No? I mean,
Come on.
All I want to say, Mike Porcelli, Falmouth Engineering, is confirm, yes, we modified our plans to include a separate existing conditions plan that shows everything we were aware of related to the violation, shows additional trees, it shows areas that were altered, the stumps, and it made it cleaner and easier to see separately on an existing conditions plan. But we also did superimpose it on the proposed plan, just so you can go look back and forth if you want to reference. So that information was provided.
yes. Thank you.
I have a question, Madam Chairman.
Yes, Jen.
To Brian. Brian, when was the enforcement order issued on this property?
I'd have to check my file. I think it was in November, October, November last year. Oh, Jen can tell you specifically.
Probably have it, I just have to find it. I'm being lazy.
November 28th last year.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that it?
I think I mean, there are a couple of findings you ultimately have to make when you're discussing this. One, the coastal bank issues. Remember, the staff had it drawn differently. And two, the enforcement issue, particularly in this property and the adjacent properties, is of concern to the staff. So I understand the reasoning, although I think it can be done, but, you know, staff would push to have the plantings put in. I understand So, I mean, the board can decide on that. Brian, if the board were to allow a bond to be posted, we're gonna need a quote for the amount of work, the entire restoration work, all the plants, everything. I want to see a very comprehensive quote.
Yeah, Ms. Crawford can provide that, and if the commission feels that that's necessary, which we don't, but we're offering it, a condition that says something like submission to staff of a proposal from a reputable contractor, and then you can have that 100% of that, or?
Well, the board usually does 100% plus 25, well, like, you know, plus
Okay.
25%, the quote plus 25%. And then, I mean, that is the only way the staff would recommend this project could go forward. You know how I feel about this enforcement issue on this property. I mean, we're coming up to almost a year. I understand that your clients aren't responsible for it, but this is a property that they're choosing to purchase with this outstanding enforcement, so.
I understand all of that, and I didn't want to repeat my presentation.
No,
last time.
I get it.
But we actually see this as an opportunity, because I know that, without naming names, the properties out there have had a long history, and my client would be kind of the new person in town and can address these concerns. So that's why we're proposing to do the restoration of the enforcement order, address the enforcement order and the construction.
I understand that, Brian, but you also have to understand that I've been involved in a lot of projects over the years, and what is said in this room necessarily isn't always what, you know, happens when an applicant is issued an order of conditions. So that's where the staff is coming from.
I do understand that.
Okay.
But the plans speak for themselves, they're there.
I took a whole bunch of notes while you were talking, Brian.
Okay, if I remember correctly, it's Steve, Danny, Betsy, and, yeah, okay, Steve.
I think all of the questions that came up in the last hearing have been answered. I'm not familiar with the bond procedure in my tenure.
We do that. Something.
Apparently it's done occasionally, but it seems to be a goodwill gesture. And the staff's concern, just to clarify, is that you want the errors corrected before a new start begins.
Correct. That would be ideal.
Mhm.
The ideal. If not, the town does need to, you know, protect the town's interests on the property. Therefore, the staff would highlight, if the board were, you know, to allow the construction before planting, because, you know, this board usually puts a condition on that plantings go in prior to construction if it's not going to interfere with the construction of the property. In this case, a lot of those plantings could go in that wouldn't interfere with that. But in this case, the staff would say, given that this is an enforcement issue out there, and a fairly large one, that we would ask that either a bond is posted or the plantings go in prior to construction.
Okay, and not, just for my education again, what are the chances that this enforcement order would actually be successful in remediating with the existing owner?
Well, that is
Kind of
one for the
impossible
courts.
to say, I wouldn't like to-
Excuse me?
That would be one for the courts.
Oh, I see. We're close to doing that? We do that after?
Well, let's put it this way, Steve, with the existing owner, the enforcement order was issued in November. And we've been trying to get a plan to this date, and it has not been submitted. So they have been ignoring our enforcement order, as they have ignored the enforcement orders on other owned properties in the past.
Okay.
But it's the property, not this applicant?
Not, yes, the property, not the applicant, absolutely
That's
correct.
the
And
distinction.
Yeah.
it's not direct relevance to,
And I think that was mentioned at the last hearing,
Sorry.
too.
Yeah.
I just wanted
Brian
to-
feels that we have a better chance of getting the property restored under this applicant.
I do.
Seems that there's concurrence on that. That's it.
That's the,
Jamie.
is the road right there. My question is about all the trees, so I'm gonna let you address that, because you got that pretty well covered.
Betsy.
Okay, well, first of all, we'd all love to see this enforcement be addressed. And And I understand Jen's concern, but personally, I can deal with you posting a bond. I know you'd rather not post a bond, but as Jen said, we have a lot of experience, I'm looking at the board here, and other than the two new people, we have probably 30 or 35 years of experience cumulatively, and not all of it's been good. And what Jen said is absolutely true. What's said here is said here, and then it's forgotten. My big concern is in the planting plan. And almost all the planting plan is fine, except we're very fortunate to have a very good record keeper. And so I went back to the notes from the last time, because I remember pointing out all the oaks that are going to be cut down in the B zone. And although Susan didn't actually say when I said 10-inch or 12-inch, she didn't put all that in. I did say there should be much more effort in the restoration plan in putting in lots more trees. You should put in a whole scattering of oaks in this area. I didn't notice any trees. You must replace them all. We need to know how many trees and how many caliper inches. And then I actually counted the number of trees, which was 15 in the B zone. Plus, as Jen pointed out, there were trees in the A zone, which we don't know about. I mean, you know that they were there, but they got ground up. And Maury and I were off by one. Maury, in the notes, have 181 caliper inches. Today, when I went through, I had 180 caliper inches. And what's being replaced for trees is 13 cupolas, a total of 33 caliper inches. And so I would like to see more trees, more oaks. And we, as a board, we could either address this as a, in deliberation, or you can offer it to us right now.
So I want to make one comment, and then we talked about this issue, and so Jen is prepared to tell you what our thought pattern is. But the comment I want to make is just a distinction between the A and the B zone. If we were coming before you with no violation whatsoever in the A zone, we would be proposing to take these trees down that are in the footprint of the house. And I don't want to overstate the regulations, but I think that we're allowed to do that in the B zone.
But if there's room in the A zone, and there certainly is here because the A zone's been clear cut, we ask for trees to be put back in.
Right, and we are proposing some, but I'm going to turn the technical matter over to Jen because we thought this through. We didn't ignore the commission's comment, and she'll explain.
Okay.
So in regard to removals in the A zone, we only did find one tree that was removed in the A zone right on the 50-foot buffer line. And I believe that the caliper of that was a 5-inch caliper in the A zone. Everything else was from the B zone. So I don't want you to think that there was a ton of trees removed from the A zone, because that was not our finding. There were some areas within the A zone, as shown on the plan, that were at one point, I believe, probably brush mowed. But I believe that not that it matters when it happened, but I do believe that happened prior to the tree removals up on top. And the reason I believe that is because the sprouts of the native plants that are going back, when you look at the bud scars, it shows more than one season of growth. So I wanted to make sure that you asked for the information as regarding the enforcement and what happened out there. That is what I believe what happened.
I read your report.
Yep, and in regard to the trees, so I thought I had printed a picture and brought it with me, but I can't seem to find it. So for much of the bank that is facing, so the topography of the bank turns. This portion of the bank faces this way, and then the topography turns this way, and you have much more protection on this side from the landform that's out here, closer to the water. Based on, and we try to take our cues from what we're seeing on the property and what we're seeing the vegetation that's there doing and reacting. This area, there are a lot of trees that have died, that are wind-thrown, that show leaf scorch. For instance, this beech is kind of the edge tree. It's a 2-inch caliber. It's not very big, but all last summer, as I was out there, I have photos of the entire side facing the water is just scorched. The back side is fine. There are some trees on this leading edge, a few oak trees. Most of those I would not call those robust trees in any way, shape, or form. It's very apparent that they are wind-pruned, salt-pruned, etc. So we proposed 13 trees, and we proposed them in this location beyond where the beech tree is, back where we have some protection from this other landform, where the trees that are growing here and in this area are much taller, they have much more developed canopies, they have less damage, they are clearly in much better health than the trees that are in this more exposed location. The reason why I proposed Tupelo rather than other oaks are because I felt like with some of the surrounding, the trees that are already on the property in these areas, as well as some of the surrounding areas, are essentially only oak and cherry species, either black and scarlet oak or white oak, as well as black cherry. So I felt that in this location, because there is some existing canopy cover, choosing a Tupelo, which is a later successional species that typically comes after oak trees. They're kind of a second wave, along with beech, would be also considered a later successional species. They are able to sustain the filtered light conditions that they grow in the understory, and then come up and replace oaks as they have lived their lifespan. So I proposed them in a location that I felt, based on what is already happening on the site, that they can actually thrive and can survive and can grow to maturity and can get large and get canopies without getting completely buffeted by salt and wind every single year. As well as the species was chosen very specifically, not to ignore your comment, but because I felt like it would, number one, increase the species diversity. There's actually a very large Tupelo that is growing, I believe it's in the paper road layout that's there. It's growing just a few feet away from the property line, and it's flourishing, it's beautiful. So I took that as a cue to propose something that I know can survive in these conditions, I know can survive in this area, and that will increase that diversity. So that was the reason for proposing what I proposed and where I proposed it.
Okay, and I appreciate that explanation, but you may see something in that deliberation and some additional trees.
All set?
That's all I have.
Okay. I would just echo Betsy's remark about the bond. I would also be willing to go with a bond, but I think that I would be inclined to require it.
So having said that,
So having said
shall I
that,
make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement?
not on the quorum.
They're not
Oh,
on the
yeah,
quorum.
that's right, sorry.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Anyone from the public or from the team there? Anything else to say? All right. All those in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? So moved. Thank you. Next, we have Daniel Palmquist, 46 Rivers End Road, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to construct a 4-foot by 50-foot wood dock, 3-foot by 16-foot ramp, 6-foot by 16-foot float, 2 spring tiles, and the associated excavating and landscaping. 46 Rivers End Road.
Yes, we do have a quorum on this one.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hang
My
on
name's Ken
one second.
Breivogel. I'm with the firm of Jack
I'm
Daniels.
sorry, 1 second, please. What is it, Jen?
Steve, Jamie, Betsy, Mary, Peter.
Hey, Peter,
Ready, Peter? Is this your first one? All right.
Steve, Jamie, Betsy, Mary.
Well, again, good evening. My
Good
name's Ken
evening.
Breivogel. I'm with the firm of Jack Lannis Colling. We represent the applicants Daniel and Carolyn Palmquist. They're proposing a new dock at 46 River End Road. The project was before the board on July 13th. You had some questions He had requested that certain revisions be made to the plan. I believe that all the revisions have been made and a new plan submitted addressing all the revisions. You also asked us to notify the immediate abutter to the north and the immediate abutter to the south, which we did. We sent certified letters to each of them. The abutter to the north, his name's Robert Kuchinek. I believe that's the pronunciation.
Hit the microphone, please.
And the abutter to the south is Eugene Black. The letter, we informed them first of the continuation of the meeting to tonight. We invited them to attend the meeting tonight, and we invited them to make a written comment. We also said they could call the office and ask any questions they may have about the project. Mr. Kufinik and the abutter to the north, we did not hear from him at all. The abutter to the south, Eugene Black, did call the office and speak to Mr. Cawley. He told Mr. Cawley that he had no objection to the project, but he did say that he was concerned about slope stabilization for the area. And Mr. Cawley talked to the Palmquist. They were agreeable. They realized that there is a problem with slope stabilization, and we want to propose a project in the near future to do both these lots and hopefully get the consent of this lot too to do one entire project. So I'll answer any questions you may have.
Peter?
I have a question on your diagram here. Looking at the dock and looking at the property line, it looks like the dock crosses into the neighbor on the north's property line.
Well, the property line will extend perpendicular from the shore. So this is the property line for this up here. This property line extends straight out.
Okay, maybe you can explain it further. The deed says it comes through that dock, and it's, whether it's valid or not, but the deed of the northern boundary property owner.
You're talking about this property owner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who has the line going through that dock. And the water has come in, and could you explain what happens when the water comes in over the property line? Is it the loss of the neighboring property owner? Does he still have some rights?
I haven't read the deed. I don't know exactly what the deed says.
For instance, this is the property line going here and going there. They have property line 10 foot of frontage originally on the body of water. It has evidently washed out, and then you have a gap here. I'm asking if you have a original owner, the property owner to the north that hasn't replied, and a dock passing through that line, which is deeded to him. What is the normal give and take considerations for the property owner that has water on the land?
Could Betsy address that? Or
Even if it's in the deed, if it's a property line that extends into the water,
Yeah.
that's not his land. What's land under the water belongs to the Commonwealth. And so the way property lines are done, which we talked about last week, is perpendicular to the shore on the lot that you have. That's how it's always done. Even if you see even if these old deeds might show it into the water, you don't own that land under the water.
Okay, well, in the Falmouth regulations, it says that you can't have the dock within 10 feet of the property line. That's the issue. And if the property line is not there anymore because of the water erasing the property rights, it makes sense.
Yeah, I
Right,
mean,
but-
that's how it's always interpreted
Okay.
here, that's,
For our purposes, it's perpendicular.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think legally, that's how it's regarded.
Okay. Jen?
But it still doesn't make that 10 feet on that southern property line.
No,
Well, yeah, we know that.
we know
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Did you have anything else, Peter?
That's it.
Okay. Steve,
I don't have any other questions.
Jamie,
I had a note on here about lighting, but I don't, are they proposing lighting on this?
The original plan did propose lighting, that's been taken off. The second sheet, there's no lighting.
And then how are we dressing the 10-foot?
We're going to
we're
discuss
going
it.
to deliberate.
Yeah, we're going to discuss it.
Nothing?
Could you recap what you said at the beginning about combining things into a new project, a new NOI?
No, that's a bank stabilization. That has
Okay,
nothing
it's
to
a
do
whole
with
different
this.
thing.
Yeah.
All right,
different
all right.
thing.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing well this evening,
We
so.
plan to file a separate notice of intent to address the slope stabilization.
Okay, fine, great, thank you. All right,
I have no question.
okay.
So we're gonna talk about whether we're gonna accept the,
During deliberation.
During deliberation.
okay.
I
I mean,
mean,
it is what it is. We have to talk about it.
basically, they attempted to contact the property owner. If I understood the presentation correctly, where's Mr.
There's no reply from one of them, and the
Black.
other one
Who
evidently
responded?
called Jack, but we
Who
don't have
called,
any.
north
No
or
problem, except
south?
for the slope.
The person who owns the property on the south, Eugene Black.
He called Jack.
Yes.
The problem is, we don't have that in writing, so that's our issue right now, but we will deal with
No,
that
what
in
I'm asking is,
deliberation. I mean,
are they offering anything for this, or they're just saying this is?
as
what
I
we're-
said before, what's said in this room doesn't always necessarily transfer to outside,
I don't
so.
understand what I'm asking.
Anything for what?
If you want, I can ask for a one-week continuance, and I can request that we contact Mr. Black and ask him to submit a written comment.
Would you like to do that?
Well, we can't do a one-week continuance, and we
we-
can't do a two-week continuance. It would be a continuance until October 30,
This is the one you-
August
I
30th.
don't think we want to do that.
No, I think,
It's up to
you
him.
know what?
It's up to him, though.
Yeah, but if people on the other side don't like it, they'll
Okay.
appeal the decision.
Yeah, so what we'll do is, they'll probably close the hearing, Ken. If you could get a hold of Mr. Black and have him send you an email within the next 2
Yeah,
weeks,
we-
that would be ideal. We don't need to continue it just for that, but get him to send you an email.
We will contact him again and request that he make
Thank
a
you.
comment. We simply cannot compel him to make a comment.
No, I understand that. We
favorable or-
understand that.
Or against.
Yep, we understand that.
All right, so,
I move that we close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
It would be helpful to us.
any comment from the public? All those in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Jim?
What was that, my dear?
Riftwood Irrevocable Trust, care of Paul and Gail Conway, trustees, 150 Westwood Road, North Falmouth, Massachusetts. for permission to permission to redevelop landscape and hardscape areas, including the removal and reconfiguration of the existing concrete retaining walls and patios, installation of fire pit patios, spa, retaining walls, stone steps, replacement plantings within previously required buffer plantings, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Holmes & McGrath, landscape, land surveyors and engineers for the applicant. With us tonight is also the landscape architect, Greg Fellows, and also attorney Kevin Flower. This hearing was continued from a couple of weeks ago. The project that is before us is a redevelopment of the hardscape areas on the back of the existing dwelling. Some of the comments from the prior hearing for us to address with the revised plan and additional submittals was listed in the letter that we submitted a week ago. There are 7 bullets, and I'll go one by one. A couple of weeks ago, we proposed the replacement of 4 cedar trees. 3 of those cedar trees were being proposed on the piece of land that's called 7th Shoreway. At the request of the board, we relocated them to the location of Lot 211, in the same location, or approximately the same location, where the stumps exist. Bullet number 2 was to identify what is the planting area that is required under prior orders of condition. There are 2 prior orders of condition that require mitigation planting. The revised plan now shows a hatch pattern depicting the areas of planting that refer to those prior orders of condition. Bullet number 3 was to separate the planting area from the mitigation to the voluntary plantings. So the revised plan now has 2 other hatch patterns for proposed planting. There's one planting straddling the buffer zone A area, which is proposed to be Virginia Rose. And then there's another portion of planting that's proposed as voluntary planting for ornamentals. The revised plan also includes the redevelopment calculation. The original plan did not show the calculation. There's a net decrease in hardscape areas of -4. Therefore, the proposed project does not require additional mitigation planting. We were asked to add additional topographic information on the land of 7th Shoreway so that the board could have a better understanding of what's the changes proposed for the field that's proposed along the side of 7th Shoreway. So the new plan shows that additional topographic information. There was the request to modify the selection of plant species on the planting list. The species have been revised. There was a list submitted last week with the new proposed plant species. And there's also the request of the submittal of a landscape plan, and that's the plan that I'm showing as a graphic before you. It's the same plan that was submitted last week. The landscape plan depicting the proposed areas for planting and the species of plantings. If there's any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Raul. Jen, do you have anything? All right, and everyone's on the quorum. All right, Courtney?
The plant list, this is the one that was submitted by Bull, somebody or other, on July 26th.
Yes.
Are these all on our approved list? I thought these look more like ornamentals.
There are ornamentals.
There are some ornamentals in there, but they're in that area of the yellow in the landscaping plan, so I'm fine with it. I already sat with them through that.
Okay.
Yeah.
No other questions?
All
And
right.
I know that how much Betsy loves hydrangeas, so.
It's the Cape Cod national
Yeah.
flower. Kevin?
Other than the fact that my wife loves them, no comments.
All right. I love them. Betsy?
We'll tell you that story sometime.
Betsy.
Thank you very much for, your letter was very clear to go through, and I have no questions about the
Thank you.
plan.
All right, Jamie?
Wow, I'm good.
I was going to say that. Thank you.
That you're
Appreciate
good?
the
Oh, thank you.
clarification. Yeah.
Peter?
He was harassed at the
Thank you.
last.
We don't want you to feel harassed. We like good work like you just turned in today.
Yes, it's much appreciated. Thank you. All right.
Put a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
All right.
Yes, sir, that's a kind of a procedural thing the board does. They'll put the.
We did the motion and the second, and then we hear comments.
Who
That's
seconded
all right.
that?
Courtney did, I think.
I did.
Okay.
All right, so the board is done for the moment at least. All right, yes, sir, please come up.
I'm an occupant across the street from the 7 Shoreway. Tom Gragliano, my wife Carolyn is here. I submitted by registered receipt, return mail to Jennifer, some determinations here. First off, good evening, Madam Chairwoman, Commission members, Jennifer, Ms. Cronin. Thank you for all your time and efforts on this board. It is my estimation, with my experiences in town government, the most demanding board in any community, and certainly this community does have that, because you have miles and miles of water, whether it be from a kettle pond, shorelines, you must have thousands of miles that you have to address as you go forward. So bless you all for that. So under your purview, it's not an easy task every night. Last week, like I said, we sent out 2 enclosures to Jennifer. I trust that she may have passed them on to you.
They're in the file. Yep.
Yep, we have.
Okay. We are the butters as recorded at the Registry of Deeds, Carol and I. In addition to that, the fact findings that you see and what you have in your hand was researched by several attorneys and a Barnstable Land Court judge. Please note, we're the dominant estate, and the Shoreway right-of-way is a surveying estate, and that is forever. It can never be changed. Therefore, any and all plantings by previous owner should be removed, or even the current owner. No grading or slope change from the original natural contour is to be allowed within the entire Shoreway. In conclusion, anything that is in this plan tonight that he modified or was modified and presented to you, that request be denied and rejected for anything that would go on the 7 Shoreway. That is our position. It speaks for itself in the recorded deed. If you have any questions, please fire away.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions from Mr. Caragliano?
Call me Tom. I'm fine.
Tom? I guess not, but thank you very much for your comments. Is there anyone else in the public who would like to say something?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower, I'm an attorney with Ahmed Clower Law Firm here in Falmouth, and I represent the Conways, the applicants in this matter. Respectfully, I read Mr. Caragliano's correspondence, and I did not come away with those conclusions from his correspondence. I saw nothing in there relative to views or to their ability to make use, the owner's ability to make use of the Shoreway or to grade or plant it, provided, to the extent there is anyone that has a right to pass and repass over that, they not be prohibited from doing so. There is some disagreement as to who has those rights, but that's not relative to this application. It's outside of the purview of this commission. I think that to the extent anyone does have that right, there's more than ample space for them to pass and repass on the property, even with the proposed plantings. That being said, I'd be happy to address any questions you might have at this time.
All right, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Any questions, Kevin Carr?
No.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So, we have the motion and the second. All those in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you all.
I got it right here.
All right. So now we move on to vote orders of conditions. You could,
Just for you, just for your sake, there are two other avenues I could take without judicial hearings and kill the whole thing.
well, those are your options and the hearing is closed.
Well, I'm saying, it looks like they're gonna be putting stuff in the shoreline.
Well, we haven't voted. But
If they're going to do that, I can kill that in a nanosecond, that's a silly time. Very easily.
Sir, the hearing's closed. There's no more testimony.
So when do I know what's going to happen with the proposal?
It will be voted on,
Probably the 16th. So the board will vote it on the 16th. It will be issued by,
So that's another meeting that I can attend on the 16th?
yes.
you can attend on the 16th, sir, but there will be no public comment. No more public comment can be taken. So the board will be, have a discussion. You're more than welcome to listen to the discussion, but they cannot take public comment from either yourself or the applicant. That said, they'll make a decision at that point, and it will be issued that week.
And I have a question about that. If it's not in the likeliness of what I'm saying tonight, can I appeal it?
There is an avenue of appeal, yes.
Okay,
Yep,
fine.
absolutely.
I have the avenue. Thank you very much. Sorry for the interruption.
That's quite all right. Good night.
Olive oil websites, what else?
All right. Orders of conditions. First up is 108 Gansett Road, Wang.
That was that enormous restoration project out on Gansett. Oh, quorum, I'm sorry, Susan, I'm sorry. It's Kevin, Steve, Jamie, Betsy, Mary, Peter, and Courtney. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of you.
I have a comment on this project.
Yes, ma'am.
Peter and I visited it.
Yes.
And it was Peter's probably first site visit. And he was a little apprehensive to go down that little path. And he said, we just had a lecture on ticks.
Ticks, yeah.
This looks like a great place. And I said, well, we'll check each other for ticks. But we didn't see any ticks. But that afternoon, I'm working at my desk, and I said, what's that under my pants?
Why are you making me
What is
itchy?
that?
What's with the visual?
Yeah, I don't need to be itchy right now. Okay, I don't need
And I
to
had
go
a tick.
home and be itchy.
We should have checked each other more closely.
Yeah, I guess so.
Too much information.
Yeah.
Please, all right, folks.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Moving on,
Anybody
restoration
have a
plan.
germane comment?
The only comment
Didn't
that
have
the
any
staff,
question on it.
actually the staff does have is that this is an enforcement issue. It was an original enforcement issue. I would like a time frame on this. So I know the property is currently on the market. I would like a time frame on this. If the board issues this permit, we'll issue it by next week. There really isn't any reason why this
Can't be done this
can't be
season.
done this season.
3 months?
Yeah.
Is that what you, does
Yeah.
that sound right? All
Yeah.
right.
That sounds good.
Okay. So I would say plant by October 31st. Even though they do have a 3-year permit, we can make some findings that it is a result of an old enforcement order, the monitoring was never completed. Some of the plants that were installed per the old enforcement order have since been removed. That bank has been terribly altered, and they do need to stabilize it. So, okay.
I move, oh, anybody, any other comments?
Take it
And I
away.
move that we accept as discussed.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, unanimous, so moved. All right, 82 Waterside Drive, Ziza. I think we all remember this one. It's
Okay.
the rocks.
All right,
A rock.
hang on. I have
The
to
big,
get
big
form.
rocks.
The rocks. Courtney, Mary, Betsy, Jamie, and Steve. One. Peter and Kevin, just checking the rest of the quorums. You're not on them. You can stay for the discussion, or the chairman might let you
You
leave.
could be excused if you choose to be excused.
Hesitant as I am to leave.
You're just a rookie. I don't think rookies should be able to lead.
Yes, right.
Okay, rocks, guys, focus, rocks.
Yes.
Ziza. He gave you 2 avenues to approve it.
Pardon?
I said the applicant's representative gave you 2 avenues in which to approve this
Yes.
project. Staff doesn't agree with either one of them.
Yes, I did not find either of those compelling, or
So,
the one
first
about
of
the
all-
engineering structure was completely illogical, in my opinion. And the other one, I don't think was emphasized the most important issues at hand, so. My inclination is to deny this application.
But we have to put a does everybody
But we have
remember
to
how
put
we
a
do it?
positive on the
On those sheets
All right,
table.
but, so we're gonna
What?
make our
We put a
finding,
positive
okay,
on the
wait,
table,
guys,
but
I
we
need
don't
to,
agree with it.
guys,
I
guys,
see.
hello?
You don't
Vote no.
vote correct.
Vote nay.
I can explain that, Betsy.
He got it.
I
He
know.
understands.
Okay, let's go back to the illogical
-2.
coastal engineering structure. I kind of need some,
Well, he was proposing that it could be,
considered a coastal engineering structure,
Right, and
therefore
that-
they could dismantle it and modify it.
right, within the regulations, what they want to do, it would be within
There was
our
no-
regulations. However, a coastal engineering structure would have presumably been put there for
And there was-
reasons of protecting stuff up the coast, the properties, and
Behind
they were pretty clearly arguing against that all along. And so, you know, to me, that's talking out of both sides of your mouth, that
And
argument.
there's no evidence.
And there's no evidence that
was.
that
We
ever
don't
happened,
know
right?
There's
whether
no
it's
evidence,
natural or
no
not.
licenses, no anything.
Correct, correct.
Okay.
And there was an affidavit that you asked about, but even the affidavit says the person was there from, I don't know,
Right,
1974 or something, so.
right. The only
who knows?
evidence
But there
is,
was evidence from the neighbor that it had been there before.
yeah, and,
So-
I mean, I would say the predominance of the evidence was that it was placed by man, but I don't see how that makes any difference.
Probably most likely by the guys that put up Stonehenge.
Yeah, so
But-
under land under ocean,
Stone.
you guys are going to make, you know, the findings are gonna be that it is increasing, it would increase erosion and storm damage to the neighboring properties. There are provisions under land under ocean that will trip will uphold the denial of the removal.
Right,
Right, and the countervailing argument on this particular branch of the argument tree, was to enhance navigation or to, you know, and recreation, and it doesn't seem, it would be a small benefit, if any, in that regard, and does not I don't
Outweigh
think
the
outweigh
detrimental.
the risk of erosion and storm damage to.
Yep.
What's the width of the existing channel? Isn't it 30 or 30 feet or
I
something?
think it's
Well,
30.
that's, they're 20-foot channels right off between some
Yeah,
of those
so, I mean, the
rocks.
point is,
And for the-
how are you
for a
enhancing
powerboat, it's
navigation
like
by making that
100
wider?
feet up to the north. Yeah.
Unless you're bringing a cruise ship in.
Well, yeah, well,
Yeah.
really, I think it's about not having to go quite as far, but I'm just not persuaded by those
No.
arguments.
Okay. Got it.
You need any more?
Nope.
Okay,
I'm
so we
gonna make
need
I'll make a positive motion to accept the proposal, or accept the thing as proposed.
No.
No?
Put a positive motion on the floor to approve the project.
Yeah, to approve the project as proposed.
You kind of said that.
And I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
No.
Opposed?
Unanimous, no.
Seems kind of weird to make the motion and then vote against it.
Doesn't it, though?
Oh, that's happened.
long
Put a second on.
No, I get it.
Yeah,
It's just
move it
weird.
to-
Right,
I mean,
right. But there's a long,
All right, 90 Loop Road,
it got weird.
okay.
Loop Road Nominee Trust.
Hang on. Um,
Short, if you had any comment.
It'll be short.
I'm not on this one. The other four are.
Oh, yes.
Courtney?
but you're on
All right.
another one I need
Yeah,
to
they have-
report. I
so-
mean, that's.
I'll make
I
my,
need to-
I know, no,
I'll
no,
make
no,
my
stay.
brief comment now, and then I'll be
Bow
quiet.
out.
Okay.
Okay, so tight lot, site management is key. I would like to propose that we have, prior to the start of construction, a detailed, more detailed, what do you call it?
Methodology.
Work-
Description
work-
of
But you have to
description
be
and-
specific about what you're looking for.
Huh?
I mean,
He did respond to some of your.
No, and I agree with that, and I'm comfortable with him as you know, his contracting skills and sensitivity to it. So I'm just saying that I would like to see a more specific thing, and all I'm saying is, we go ahead and approve it with the condition that, you know, he submit a revised thing that, let's say, Jamie and I can look at, and if we sign off and it's done.
I mean, I'm
Would you
okay
like
with
to-
that, but I'm just trying to think, if I'm in his shoes,
Well,
what am
yeah,
I gonna offer?
in other words, there's, to me, and I really don't want to go beat this to death, you know, I know we want to get out of here.
I want to.
So,
And you already did beat it to
And
death.
right,
yeah,
there-
so,
we had a
but
long
there
go
are
on.
obviously lots of what-ifs in the construction business. You can't detail everything. But I think there's certain things with particular, when he's excavating, that concerns me, the excavation around the site. We're going down 6 feet.
Can we require that, though?
Yes, you can.
You know, I'm concerned about that, and I want to make sure the proper controls are in there. So, once he determines that he has, certain things are going to happen, like, he should have the option, and he says, I'm going to put sheet piling in, you know. And if he doesn't encounter those conditions, he doesn't have to. But I
Yeah, that's fine, I mean, we talked about that, right?
Yeah, they were concerned about the trees, and I mean, Courtney, I'll have them put a more detailed construction methodology in, focusing on excavation methodology. I can absolutely do that, and if you want,
Yeah, because that would be the
Because
biggest,
he does,
and honestly,
you know,
since
once
I've
he-
never worked
yeah.
with, or I've never heard, and I know I talked to you afterwards, you have heard of this contractor. Not somebody that generally comes before the board or the board is comfortable with. If it would make you feel better, I can always schedule a pre-construction meeting on site. I'm going to one tomorrow on a very sensitive site
well,
with the
I think that would be
contractor.
a good idea
And I can do that
on,
and
I agree
bring
with that.
Jamie with me.
And on that note, can staff do, call it interim inspections? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I can do a pre-construction on site.
Have quizzes.
On site, and then we can make a note to just periodically swing by the site and check it out while they're doing excavation. Have them tell us exactly when they're gonna be excavating and things like that. If the excavation is the biggest concern,
Yeah,
which I
maybe-
understand why,
Certain milestones, yeah.
yeah, when they're excavating, they have to let us
I
know.
mean, one of the things that he pointed out is that once he gets it.
Yeah,
which
once
is-
he gets it
Which is I'm
done.
concerned, is once he gets the superstructure up, he's
He's
gonna
just-
be able to put a lot of stuff underneath.
Yeah, and he's just
That's-
working backwards, so we can do that. We can craft the order where it's like more detailed construction methodology, including, notifying staff when excavation is gonna take place, pre-construction on site, things like that.
Yeah.
And then we can do that, and that should cover it.
Okay.
It's kind of like what I did with
That's fine,
45
that's fine.
Little Neck Bars, and that's the one I'm going out to tomorrow. I'm gonna meet with the builder, I'm gonna meet with the guys putting the cheap piling in. Once it's installed, go back out there and check it, and then they're working their way back.
Perfect. I mean, you can't get much better than that. I mean,
Yeah, I think that's fine.
No,
Staff would be comfortable with that.
The guy's an engineer, he's qualified to, and
Yeah,
it's,
I was fine.
Can we condition that he is the builder of record?
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, since.
Well, what we can do is we can sit there and say, that they are, we'll do this a lot of times when you see people like Blue Flax or Crawford or Wilkinson, that they are the person that is allowed to conduct the project under this order of conditions.
Yeah, because
That you also reserve the right, because you can't hold somebody to something like
that's
that.
basically my question.
But how we write it is, it'll say, they are the sole entity allowed to execute this order of conditions or the restoration plan under this order of conditions. The commission reserves the right to approve any additional
Or change.
or alternate contractor.
Yeah,
So they
because
have to come back in and give you guys a presentation on how they're gonna do it, because you get a certain level of comfort with certain contractors
Well, and that's
and
it, because
representatives.
we're approving something based on what they've offered.
Right, exactly.
So if that offer's no longer on the table, we should have the right to.
Absolutely, that is one thing we've learned throughout the years, Jamie.
Yep. That
You know?
sounds very.
Yeah,
So,
and-
yeah, and we can, and I absolutely.
You and I are on
do
the
that.
same page on that.
I felt like I had a high level of comfort with it.
Yeah, we'll just write it like that, and if their contractor changes, the new contractor has to come in and give a presentation for the board prior to construction.
I'm good with that.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
I mean,
So let me put a motion on the table.
yes, dear. Make a motion to accept the order as discussed.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
And Katina North is the pool project where Raoul and the little pool shed and,
Right?
no, that quorum is,
I'm not on this one.
no, but you're on the next one.
I know I am. I
Yeah,
just-
stick
So
around.
stay put.
I'm just saying, if it's not the same quorum, we're missing somebody.
No, it's Steve, Jamie, Mary, and Courtney.
It is the same quorum.
Yeah.
Ooh, get right down to
Well, if it's not the same quorum, Betsy, then we can't vote it. So, but it's you guys, it's fine. I don't think there were any real special conditions I had on this one.
Right.
Moving the little
Katina
pool
North.
shed. They found the fox den in the wall, they're not gonna fill it in.
Good, because foxes keep,
And here we go.
Oh, you can't talk, you're not on the quorum.
Ta-da!
You're the man.
Much appreciated, Steve. All right, yes, that's pretty straightforward. I think most of it had to do with specifying more on the plan as
Yeah.
opposed to
Exactly.
problem with the project, so,
Okay.
all right.
A very colorful
Make a motion to
resubmission.
accept as discussed.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. So moved. And finally, we
Betsy,
have
pay attention,
51
Leo.
Gunning Point.
No, Courtney's not on this one.
I'm on this one.
However,
Betsy's on this one,
Barbara,
Courtney's not.
I'm not.
No, you're not, you can go.
was Barbara here for Jack and then Ken showed up, or what was that all about?
No, Barbara was here
Or
for
was
the
she here for
float,
this?
she was here for the very first RDA.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, anyway.
Valente, they redid the planting plan, added more trees. I'm fine with it.
Yes, this was, I mean, yeah, this was really pretty much all wrapped up at the second go-around.
Seemed to be an area of concern for the staff, so I wanted to make sure that you were.
Yeah, no, I'm fine.
Move that we accept as discussed.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
I move that we adjourn.
Wait,
Second.
what? I know it's not on here, but what happened about 1:30?
About,
Oh, 1:30, 10
yeah.
o'clock Friday.
It's on?
Just scoop in, yep.
okay.
I can be there.
What? Jamie won't be able to be there,
Oh,
but
I
I got
can.
Courtney.
I mean, if it's different times, okay.
And it has to be.
No, I have to vote it on Friday, and I'm not, it's okay, Jamie, I didn't think you were gonna
can't
be
do
able to
that.
do it. Steve, you're here, right?
Correct.
So Steve, Betsy, Mary, and Courtney can make it.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Downstairs or up?
Sorry.
Up here.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Jamie, but
No.
by the time I got in,
You're off the hook.
yeah,
That time of day.
yeah, I know it's tough for you, but by the time we got in, I didn't want to take the chance of being an hour or an hour and a half late on that posting. Just because I have a feeling. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Comprendo.
Thank
Yes,
you,
please.
everybody. We
Walk
didn't vote to
Friday.
adjourn.
No.
Just
Are we
let
ready
you
to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Of course you do. I'm
be
here to
opposed?
answer it for you.
Who would oppose that?